Alrighty, guys. MP had a question during that long break. Well, Final Fantasy Tactics definitely has characters that level up. One of the Disgaeas might. Tactics Ogres and Final Fantasy Tactics are very similar. One of the Disgaeas might have something that evolves them. I don't know about Tactics Advance. I don't care for Tactics Advance. So I didn't play the first or second one. The Valkyria Chronicle series is tactics based, but it doesn't really evolve. Ogre Battle, Vandal Hearts, Fire Emblem, none of them evolve. Yeah, well, and that's the same thing with a lot of these other games. They do become better classes. Three houses, they become a better class. They do upgrade. I haven't touched any of the Shining Force games. That's something I would actually like to start collecting. God, I would really like to get some of the Saturn games too. Trying to think. Evolve? Not really. Upgrade, become better, yeah. Have you done Suikoden? I haven't played Suikoden. I know I got Vandal Hearts 1. I'm pretty sure I do. I'm afraid my video game catalog's not up to date. Yeah, I do have Vandal Hearts. Wonder what Vandal Hearts 2 is going for. It's not too bad. Seems that Vandal Hearts 1 is the more expensive of the two. Cool. Yeah, I can't think of another one that would be... Jeanne d'Arc, I think, maybe had something like that. Jeanne d'Arc was really good. Kind of regret ever trading that in. Alright. We got our bubble belt now. We need to get ourselves to a city that has a shop that sells X potions. Guide claims you can buy X potions somewhere. The older RPGs, yeah, are like old RPGs are way better than modern day RPGs. They just are. But modern games do things that the old games just couldn't do. The experience that I had playing Ghost of Tsushima or Spider-Man on the PS4, just the feeling of playing that game was something that the old games just cannot deliver. There's more immersion now than I used to have. But I can't think of an RPG that can beat out the old ones. Like Super Nintendo days particular. And PS1 had a pretty good heyday. They had a really good stab at like RPGs. PS1 was like a really good catalog. A lot of really good games in there. Platformers and adventure games and a lot of really good RPGs. A lot of really good JRPGs in there. Alright, bro. Do you sell X potions? Please! Tell me you sell X potions. You do. 47,000? That ain't bad. I'll take that. And good there. Alright, so we're stocked up on X potions. We're stocked up on... It's claiming that the Muthru Bazaar Clan Provisioner Rabanastre can sell ethers. I don't believe that's true. I think it might be referring to the PS2 version. Alright, where is this dude? We need to get a Stone of the Condemner. That we do not have, so that means we need to go to... Mount St. Burma Amasis. Mount Bur Amasis. Alright, we gotta go up to the top. There's a temple up there. Apparently there's a dude I talked to, and he gives us the stone of the Condemner. This dude right here. Okay. So now it says power armlets. Okay. So we need to buy some of those. Need to buy 2 more of them. But you told me to wear a bubble belt, though, so... Alright, so I need 1 power armlet. I got 1. It's gotta be good enough. Let's see here. Yeah, we got Chronos tiers, so... Only 1 person needs to have it. Still Shrine of Miriam and enter the Ward of Measure just south of the save crystal. Touch the waypoint. Where? What is he talking about? The Stilt Shrine? I don't remember this place at all. Like, bikini at all. Oh, I remember it now that I look at it. Alright, so... just south of the crystal, which it's this way. Some new monsters chilling here. Alright. We need to check here. So he's got an attack power of 83. He's got 85. Okay, protect shell bubble. Okay. Wrapping my head around this. Forgot you gotta wait till it says action. Okay. Go with that. Let's go with power bracelet on you. You got bubble belt on so that you can't lose it. We'll switch you to shell shield if we think we need it. Then Gambits are going to be Bosch, lowest HP, attack. HP under 10%. Use an X potion on him. I just realized the way that I'm setting this up, they'll never do it because they'll just always attack the lowest HP. I don't know why I almost completely fucked that up. Status KO. Use... No, don't go attack the KO person. Use a Phoenix down. Okay, so... I don't know why I blanked there. Okay, and then let's actually up this a little bit to 70%. I honestly think this is okay. Only one way to know for sure that's true. Looks like he'll use some poison attacks too, so... Let's do status poison. Antidote, which we got 99 of, so that should be good as well. Also throw that on... What's the plan? So the plan is we're going up against Zeromus, which is another Esper just like Chaos was, but Chaos stops you from being able to attack. Zeromus stops you from being able to use spells. So we're building a melee-heavy team of Balthier with his full arms, Fran with her bow, and Bosch with axe and shield. They're all spelled up real aggressively right now. With like haste and bubble and stuff like that, so they're all really high health, so we're gonna go in with a bunch of magic effects on us that are gonna wear off some point in the fight. And then we just gotta ride it out. Yeah, the best gear that I got in the game can be worn by these guys. Do I really go... But give up bamboo arrows for lightning arrows. But is he weak to an element, or is this gonna just completely ruin me? Bamboo arrows have an attack power of 2, but they add poison. Arrows add elemental damage. I'm gonna stick with my bamboo arrows. Okay, so game is paused right now. Okay. Touch the device. Use the stone of the condemner. Here we go. I don't know when the last time I saved was. I'm in it. I don't know when the last time I saved was. Okay, it's giving me an opportunity to go save. Let's go save real quick. If I have to rebuff the party, I have to rebuff the party. Not a big deal. That was dumb. God knows when the last time I saved was. Apparently, there's a save crystal right here. $74.33. I had not saved for over an hour. That'd have been disheartening. Touch the device. Yo, what up, homeboys? Touch the device. What's going on? Is it not going to lead me back to the... Okay, that's where I'm at right now. I'm at the Throne of Veiled Gods, and then I go into the next room. Okay. Take a moment. We'll rebuff everybody. We get haste on Balthier. Get haste on Fran. And we'll go down to green. The bubble Balthier. Make a tactical RPG turn-based game just called Jesus? Why? What would you do in Jesus? It would be funny. No, damn it. Okay, we're saved. We're going in. We're buffed up. I'd love to one-shot this. Alright. So he's a mad space lobster. Got it. Why does Fran not have bubble on her? Ooh. Minor change. All right, back to the boss. Yeah, if you keep feeding us these guys, man, we're gonna get a combo chain going and we're gonna start healing just off the loot. You sure you want to be doing that? It's a good combo hit. Gonna make some minor changes here. Let's go 40%. Yo, Whitebox, thank you for the follow. Love this game. It's pretty good. We're doing the Final Fantasy challenge, which means we've already played Final Fantasy 1 through 10. Touched on 11, didn't play it though, and then picked up 12 here, so you'll find us constantly comparing the current Final Fantasy we're on to all the previous ones, and Final Fantasy 12 is one of the good ones. I really like it. that guy down. Just maintain the ads, and then we'll do some damage on him every now and again when we get the opportunity to. But if we maintain the ads, eventually their loot is going to start healing us. We're at 39 chain on that. Six was really good. I can't call it the best, though. It was really, really good. The problem with 6 is... Oh, come on. Why is he just not doing anything? He just doesn't... He just stands there a lot of the time. He's slowed. Alright, that should help. Yeah, the thing about Final Fantasy VI is that it's so much... There's so much, like, secret, you didn't know unless you stumbled on this particular thing that this was going to happen kind of stuff. Like, there's just a ton of that. Okay, I need you... Fall there to stop attacking and use a Phoenix down. I don't know why you're not... Give me a second here so I can finish my thought. We got him. There we go. So, what my point was is like what Final Fantasy VI was designed to do, it does it in spades. It does it really, really well. Which is, it was a Super Nintendo game that was intended to be released in an age when, you know, we didn't have the internet spoiling everything, and if you just look up how to figure out one thing, you're going to find out like 30 other things that you didn't intend to find out. And it was meant to be one of those games that you bought and you just put a ton of time into. Like, I'm talking like 100 hours. So for the kid back in the 90s who was able to pick up FF6 and didn't have any other games to play and sat down and just played that game for hours and hours and hours and even did multiple playthroughs and found the new secrets. It's the abundance of secrets that are designed to feel like it's just for you to find. Just you, the individual player, not the market as a whole. That's what makes FF6 so good. The problem is, that doesn't age well. It ages poorly because we live in a world now where everybody's spoiled all those things for us. Like, you have to be in a vacuum for FF6 to still hit the way that it was supposed to. So much of the weight of, the punching weight of what makes Final Fantasy VI what it is, rests in its exploration and discovery of little nooks and crannies and secrets. And once that's taken away, there's not really much else. There is really good character development. Of all of the old school Final Fantasies, and then there's like the Golden Age Final Fantasies, which is like 7 through like 10, and then there's the New Age stuff. That's all action RPG, right? But like, not talking the Golden Age, but the old, like we're talking Final Fantasy 1 through 6, when they still had the lined up on the left and right side of the screen stuff. And then they stopped doing that with 7 as much, like the camera started to pan around, is what I'm saying. 6 just absolutely does something that the rest of those old classic Final Fantasy just don't do with storytelling and character development and the story arc. It was easier to follow. It was more cohesive. It was more entertaining. It was really good. But I think, like, the gameplay was solid, but it's just not another gold star because it fades with time. Which is a real bummer. Like, I wish that I didn't want to do that. I wish it wasn't like that. I don't know how you fix it. I don't think it needs to be fixed. I think it needs to be left exactly the way it was. I think it's perfect. It just doesn't push itself into best of all the Final Fantasies. I still think when you really take in 7 for what it is as a whole, not all these fanboys talking about how it's the greatest story of all time. It's a good, super solid story, but just the gameplay, the sheer amount of mini games in Final Fantasy VII is absurd. Final Fantasy VII is crawling with really good, addicting mini games that, with just a little bit more development time, could have been a whole game released on the PlayStation 1 by itself. The whole Chocobo, if you took the Chocobo breeding and the racing and put it together, added maybe another month of development time to it, you could have released that as a full-fledged PlayStation 1 game and nobody would have batted an eye at it. They would have loved the shit out of that. And that's all just in Final Fantasy VII. It was just so good. I think I like 6's story better because I'm not a big cyberpunk, and that's really what 7 is. 7's a cyberpunk slash steampunk. 7 is steampunk, but Mako is the steam. It's Mako punk, if you want to call it that. Blunt Force, thank you. And just because of taste, I enjoy mythological, medieval storytelling like what Final Fantasy VI offers more than I like punk, steampunk, cyberpunk, whatever you want to call it, storyline. So yeah, so for me, 6 lands better, but that's also why 9 lands better than any of it. I like 9 much more, its story much more than 6 and 7, except for the fact that, like, the actual end to that is about aliens. Had to get alien-esque in it, but 7 had some good twists and some good, but also at the same time, though, it's confusing too, like on your first or second playthrough. Which some people like to make it seem as if it being confusing is a good thing. Not always. Not always is that a good thing. But 6 has a good story. My thing that makes it not the best Final Fantasy game of all time is just because so many of the really good hits about that game, the things that really make you go, God, this is such a good game, is like after the time skip, you spoilers for anybody who hasn't played it, after the time skip, you stumble back on your party members. You're not led to it. You could definitely skip a good number of party members and like reobtaining cyan and stuff like that. Like, that is just so good. It is just so well done. But what makes that good? That's useless if somebody tells you, or you're following a guide or a YouTube video pointed it out while that YouTube video was getting you interested in playing 6 for the first time. But like, those things are gonna get spoiled just due to its age, and it's, I don't know how else to say it. Still need to play 6. I jumped in at 7 and enjoyed most of them since. That's the thing too, though, is like there's a lot of, within Final Fantasy, there's a lot of pissing matches and like this one's better than that one, and the reality is, with the exception of Final Fantasy VIII. Because it's a fucking turd. With the exception of Final Fantasy VIII, every single Final Fantasy, I would say maybe 2 as well. 2 and 8 are pretty big flops. And we haven't gotten to 13. 13 might be a big flop too. But aside from that, the majority of Final Fantasy are really good games. There's a reason why the franchise has been around for as long as it has, and it's still putting games out. They sell well. They're good games. You know, it's in the universe that is the video game industry. There are some really bad fucking games out there, and there are some really bad RPGs out there, and Final Fantasy falls amongst the bads very rarely. Very rarely. Yeah, I'm there too. I think we're getting it a little bit more and more. Like, there's definitely like a resurgence in like medieval appreciation, like with them going back and doing the new series for like Lord of the Rings, and Witcher's been getting a lot of love on Netflix, and Game of Thrones sans season 8, Game of Thrones really brought that forward to the world a lot. Like, I think people are starting to get back into medieval stuff. Like, medieval was big in the 80s and 90s. Huge in the 80s and 90s. Like, with Conan and Hercules and Xena and fucking He-Man, and it just, like, we just had so much really cool medieval stuff. And then the first, like, Hobbit, Lord of the Rings animated stuff was coming out around the time. Medieval was big, and 80s, early 90s, and then 90s to the 2000s. Well, it was the dawn of the 2000s, so like that was supposed to be the big sci-fi push, and it ended up being that. Black Mage gets heavy armor 9 if we give them Zeromus. Bushi gets 2 magic lores. Two magic lores if we give it to Bushi. 4 magic lores goes to the Foe Breaker. Machinist gets Makara, which is a weapon. Monk gets Sight Unseen. Red Battle Mage gets Channeling. Which, they already have it. Time Battle Mage gets Addle and Sheer, and the White Mage gets 270 hit points. Oh. Yeah, no, I realized I did that. You like 8? It was the first one I played by myself, so it's near and dear to me. It's super nostalgic. Yeah, I mean, people like what they like, but I mean, it's all up on YouTube. So if you're interested in me ruining Final Fantasy VIII, it's on YouTube, so I won't repeat it here. But what I found when I was playing through all of Final Fantasy VIII, and we do everything, when like we don't do a full 100% complete of every one of the Final Fantasy games during this challenge, but we do like game plus. Like, we definitely do everything to the main storyline to get the game beat, but we also go and make sure we get ultimate weapons and we get all the summonings, and like it's like almost 100% gameplay. So we did everything there was to my interest level in 8. I think the biggest thing is I didn't collect all the cards, really. I think is the biggest thing I left off the plate on Final Fantasy VIII, but I got all the weapons, I got all the summonings, I did all that stuff. We made damn sure we extracted every single summoning in the game, so that was definitely 100% done. But when we were playing through that, we had a lot of people coming in talking about how much they love 8. And the stream title for a long time was Final Fantasy VIII's a bad game, changed my mind. So a lot of people were coming in and literally trying to change my mind. And the biggest, everything that we landed on, every single person, every single time, was, it's just something that's a fond memory of mine from as a childhood. So I think the people who like Final Fantasy VIII, it's nostalgia, and nostalgia does wonders. You know, I'll never knock somebody for enjoying something because of nostalgia. There's nothing better than reliving that those times. You know, but disconnected, unbiasedly, objectively is what I'm trying to say. looking at it objectively, that game checks off the box on every single solitary storytelling cliche and doesn't complete any of them. That game is just a mess, and when you look into the development background as to why it turned out that way, it makes so much sense. That the person who was working on it was trying so hard to impress his superiors and make Final Fantasy VIII the greatest game, and it just tried to be too many things and just got all over the place. I was thinking about playing a card game. Any suggestions? I don't know. Like in general? Like a video game card game? I don't know, like Hearthstone? I don't know. I don't know a lot. I know there's Hearthstone and Gwent are the big ones. Cards are at shore. I never got them all either. 8. The side quest of Triple Triad? Yeah, like a trading card game. Like, if you're talking, like, tabletop, I mean, Magic the Gathering. Like, if you're talking in real life, Magic the Gathering's, like, the Mac Daddy of all card games. I had to make a decision. Was I going to be somebody who put money into Warhammer, Magic the Gathering, or video games? I chose video games. So, that's a time investment. Yeah, they didn't remember. Yeah, so they're like, so that's a big, huge hole in the storyline of 8 that I think was probably one of the biggest ones I had an issue with. Was they're all from the same orphanage, right? And they get spit out into the world, and then somehow they don't ever explain why they all come back together, but that it's fate. But they come back together, and then they all, oh, we remember each other. And they're like, we forgot each other because of amnesia. That's one of the cliche checkboxes. Amnesia storytelling. Oh, great. It's a soap opera. They bring them all together, and they, oh, we remember each other. And we shook off the amnesia for no good reason. We just shook it off because reasons. And then they explain it with, using the GFs, the Guardian Forces, causes us to have amnesia. Okay. All right. Fine. Except for the one character I've never had use a GF the entire time, but alright, when you were going through your training, you used a lot of GFs before I got control over your character, and that's what caused you to lose your memory. Sure, fine. Why is it for the second half of that game we're using GFs non-stop and your memory's perfectly fine? It's just complete, like, it's just, oh, now that we discussed it as a story element, it doesn't hold weight anymore. And GFs just don't make you forget stuff. But then, like, Sid, the headmaster, he was using GFs and shit. And, like, his memory, like, was never an issue. It was weird. It was weird. They did some weird shit with it. And it's just like, I don't know. It was just a little heavy-handed to me. It was a little insistent on being, everything. It had to be the perfect romance. It had to be the perfect comedy. It had to be the perfect drama, the perfect curveball. It was just weak. Like, but why? And then, like, the Laguna stuff was, like, pretty cool, but then, like, they don't really do much with it. Like, they make a connection with it, but, like, they don't make it matter. And I think the other thing that really frustrated me the most, what was his name? Cypher? You have a rival for no reason except for to have a rival. So, like, I guess my point here is like, which story are you wanting to tell? Are you wanting to tell the romantic story between Squall and Rinoa? Are you trying to tell the romantic comedy where you take Squall Rinoa and you sprinkle in Zell with all of his goofy bullshit? Are you trying to tell the fetishist fantasy with Quistis being a librarian in a miniskirt with a whip? Come on, let's be real here. And then, or are you trying to tell the sci-fi story? Or are you trying to tell the amnesia story? It's just like we're going, like, we went 1,000 different directions all in the same story, and then we don't do it. But there's all those examples, but then there's the other one of, are you going to tell the story of two rivals, right? Like, what makes Karate Kid so good? It's about telling the story of this kid who gets beat up, he can't defend himself, his life is not great, and he meets a master who's going to train him up and be good because he has a rival. There's a kid at school who's giving him a hard time, and then the whole story is about this kid becoming strong and respecting himself enough that he can face his rival. So the whole story is about overcoming a rival. FF8 wanted to do that, and then the romantic story, and that, and that, and that, and so everything ends up getting told at like 20%, because you're trying to tell 5 stories to make a full game at 100%. Each one of them are only being delivered on a 20% basis. So I'm only getting 20% of a rival story, 20% of a romance story. You know what I mean? Like I'm only getting a little bit of... Yeah, Square was like, we want all the stories, put them all in there. It was like some kid went to... I feel like the director on FF8 went to film school and just, like, ripped out the table of contents and was like, here's all the different movie types. That's Final Fantasy VIII. Boom. Nailed it. Like, what are you doing? It just went too many directions. And I come back to it every single time on these big franchises, because we talk a lot about historical games on this channel. On these big franchises, it is not the failure to make a good game that makes bad games in these big franchises. It's over-ambition. 100%. Final Fantasy II landed sour because it was too ambitious. They tried installing, like, a weapons system to where, like, you grind your weapon proficiency, and then that changes how well you hit with it. So if you get a new weapon in the middle of a dungeon, you can't use it because you're going to get your ass kicked. And then, like, oh, the character's left-handed, so if you're not paying attention to the fact that he's left-handed and you put the sword in his right hand, shield in his left, he's going to go out there and get his ass kicked. Like, it was just too ambitious because Final Fantasy II tried to be too realistic. Final Fantasy VIII tried to tell too many good stories. It's just over-ambition. Legend of Zelda 2 was, oh my god, we hit a home run with Legend of Zelda 1 on the NES. Let's make a sequel, and let's put in an RPG system where you level up, and let's make it side-scroller because everybody loves Mario, and let's do this, and let's instead of just going, yo, let's do what we did with Zelda 1, and let's just make it better. The games that nail it, that blow up and do amazingly, are the games where the creative process is just left alone, and you're not trying to capture lightning in a bottle a second time. And that's exactly what happened with 8 and 9. If you guys don't know the story of the guy who made Final Fantasy, and the reason why he calls it Final Fantasy is because he thinks it's going to be the last game he makes. Let me double check something here. I think we need to leave from... I can do idle walking while talking. He keeps saying, I'm done. I don't want to make another game. And then he makes his masterpiece. To his mind, his masterpiece, Final Fantasy VI. And then the PlayStation gets announced. And they're like, look at all this new tech. And they're like, oh, fuck. He's like, I gotta make a really good game on that. And so then he steps back still. He doesn't have his hands in the pot as much, but he directly oversees a good chunk of what ends up making Final Fantasy VII, right? But there's other predecessors on it. And then there's other people under them that worked on it. And then there was the Western studio that helped a lot, primarily with just Western translation of the Final Fantasy games into English. And they didn't really get to make a game. Well, after 7 was done, he's like, that's it, I'm done. I'm not even going to oversee games anymore. And when that happened, there was a ton of people throughout Squaresoft, Square Enix. No, it's not Square Enix until Final Fantasy X, so it's still Squaresoft at this point. A bunch of people throughout Squaresoft that are like, let me make the next one, let me make the next one, let me make the next one. Everybody's scrambling at it. Two heads rise up, somebody from the Western studio, somebody from the Japanese studio, and they go, both make your games at the same time. You get yours to come out first because you're the home studio. The Japanese studio gets to make 8, and you will make 9. That's why 8 and 9 have super close release dates. I forget how close it is. Let's take a look. Final Fantasy VIII release date. February 11th of 1999. And July 7th of 2000. So we're talking about a year and a half, and usually these are like 4 to 5 year game intervals. During like the NES era, they were pretty much just remaking the same game and printing it, so those were coming out pretty quick. But yeah, it was like only a year. It was super quick, and the thing was the Western studio just had. They wanted to do a throwback to the very first Final Fantasy, so that's why there's white mages and black mages. Like, Vivi's straight up a black mage from the first Final Fantasy. They had an idea, they just wanted to make it, and they thought to themselves, there's a lot of comments out there and interviews and stuff where they're like, we knew we were getting a chance from the mother studio in Japan, and we knew it's really hard to impress the Japanese. So we figured no matter what we did, they may not have really like signed on and let us to continue making Final Fantasies after this, so we were just going to make the Final Fantasy we wanted to. They weren't thinking like, this has to be so good we win, and Japan takes trust in the Western studio for the rest of eternity, and we get to make the Final Fantasy. That wasn't, they gave up that stuff, and they just made a game. Meanwhile, the guy in Japan, I forget his name, the guy who headed up Final Fantasy VIII, he had this immense amount of pressure to impress, you know, Final Fantasy granddad of all the Final Fantasies. He wanted him to be impressed, and so, like, it's just over-ambition. That's it. Still, there was still a lot of fun stuff to it. There was some gameplay. I mean, it might have been Sakaguchi. I wouldn't know off the top of my head. I remember reading about it, but if your name's not Kojima or Miyamoto, your name doesn't stick. But I think it might have been Sakaguchi, now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, whoever was the director of 8, because the interviews that came out of 8 said they felt like they were pulled in different directions, and they had to help him focus. And they felt like they still had it pretty focused at the end, which it is. It's, you know, not too shambled in too many directions, but that, and then as you level up, the world levels up with you. I didn't care for. For me, the definition of a role-playing game or an RPG is something that you progress at and you get better with, right? Like, so what's interesting is Monster Hunter is an RPG. There's no levels, there's no stats. Well, I mean, there's tons of stats, but there's no, like, strength and dexterity. Typical stats that we're used to. But you're getting armor that makes you better and weapons that make you hit harder, and you get better. There's a progression. So yeah, like Monster Hunter is a form of an RPG. My mind was changed once somebody explained that to me, and I'm like, oh my god, it's totally true. Like, I never thought, because there wasn't levels, that Monster Hunter could be an RPG, and that helped me redefine what an RPG is. You have to have progression. The problem with Final Fantasy VIII is as you level up and your numbers get bigger, it levels up the whole world with you. So you don't have a progression because, like, if you're building a race car, but as you build the race car to go faster and faster, every single car and every human being moves faster and matches the speed of the race car you made. You didn't make a faster race car. What's the point? What are you doing? Like, you're not actually accomplishing it. So when you go through and you play Final Fantasy VIII, you get all powered up and leveled up, and then you go back to the starting zones, and things aren't dying in one shot, and you don't feel stronger, or you couldn't go and grind out enough levels to come back and steamroll a boss. And I get that they were trying to fix the grind out a boss issue that Final Fantasy has, but that kind of is what makes Final Fantasy Final Fantasy. You go at it, and you get your ass kicked. And then you try to change your tactics, and you go at it, and you get your ass kicked. And then, hey, maybe this isn't a boss you're going to figure out on your own, so you do one of two things. Today, you look it up on the internet. Back then, wasn't an option. So you went and you grinded, and you came back and you wiped the floor with the guy. that was part of it. Katase! That name rings a bell. Katase. Producer was Hashimoto. I think it's Katase that was the one who was like, no, let's do this now. Let's do this. And he kept adding stuff into it. Katase sets off a light in my head. But it's over-ambition, you know? I don't think it was a, you know, garbage game that needs to not exist, you know? People get really aggressive about that shit. I don't think that. We're headed to the next... We're in the last chapter of the story. By the way... Hooray, guys. Can we get a Zig cheer in chat? We're done with the side quest stuff, and we get to start the last chapter of the game. I know Mountain Dew, if he's still hanging out, is very happy to hear it. He's been wanting to see the end of Final Fantasy XII for a long time. How do I get to this area, though? In order to, you have to travel to the southern corner of Gulmore Jungle. The Parting Glade. Katase is also the director of Final Fantasy VII Remake, also involver in the OG Final Fantasy VII. Right. Maybe that's the reason why I'm recognizing his name. But I think whoever was the original, like... Who's like the granddaddy of Final Fantasy? Like... Because he worked on 6, and then he oversaw. He like, I don't even know if he's on the credits, to be honest with you, but Sakaguchi. Okay. Sakaguchi, like, 6 was his last one, if I'm remembering correctly. And then he lets people do 7, right? Well, Katase. He lets Katase do 7, but he oversees it. You know, he's popping into the room. He's looking at the storyboard stuff. He's coming in and giving his opinion, right? So that, like, that laser focus is getting brought back in if it ever gets out of the way. And then he's completely hands-off for 8 and 9. So everything that's happened after 7, Sakaguchi's out. And that's when people had the chance to step up and shine and show what they can make. And Katase made 8. Take that for what you will. Go more jungle. This is where I'm headed. Also, there's the whole element of, like, Final Fantasy VIII having the whole Uncanny Valley psychological effect with the graphics. And 12 does it to me, too. Like, guys, if you're getting into video game development, now you can make your video games look, I think, photorealistic. I don't know how that's going to age in 20 years. Maybe we'll look back on Call of Duty Cold War and go, God, that looks terrible, you know? But these this is the remaster, and this, you know, I don't know. Stop trying to make realistic looking faces. Make stuff look cartoony. That's why I like, no matter how old Mario gets, Mario always looks good because he was made to be cartoony. Save Crystal. We're in the Parting Glade. Head west. Needle Break. We go into Rustling Chapel. Feywood. Okay, I remember this. Yeah. Yeah, we found it before. It was saturated. We need to go to other projects. Only involved a new one. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, he's still in the office, though, you know? And that, even though you may not be the person who's making the game, being in the office... Shit, Ash is not on Gambits. Being in the office still does a ton. It still matters that those people are hanging out, you know? Are we good? Alright. What do we got it on? 2 times? Yeah, let's use the speed up to get through this. I mean, how many times have I brought up... I can't believe that we go through, we do the whole Final Fantasy challenge, and what do I want from it? Like, oh, hey, that's that one streamer who played all the Final Fantasy games, man. Like, he knows some stuff about Final Fantasy. He knows a thing or two about RPGs. What's my legacy? Complaining about Final Fantasy VIII. Damn it. We had so much content. So many clips and jokes and memes come out of playing Final Fantasy VIII. It was ridiculous. I think that's when Noah got his first Clipper badge in the channel. Was watching Final Fantasy VIII. I think we can just walk through it, right? Yeah. So, super excited. For those of you that are new, welcome. I hope to see you guys for a lot of the rest of this Final Fantasy Challenge. Final Fantasy Challenge continues after Final Fantasy XII with... You would think you would know how to count, and you would think it would be 13. It's not. Final Fantasy Tactics. We're not doing spin-offs like Dirge of Cerberus and Final Fantasy IV The After Years and 10-2. We're not doing those. But the reason why I do Final Fantasy Tactics, though, is because it is my favorite Final Fantasy game, period. Full stop. I don't... Like, if I'm not forced to pick from the main entry numbered Final Fantasies, Tactics is easily my favorite. And we do it after 12. We were going to do it after 7 because it came out after 7, but the War of the Lions version, which came out for the PlayStation Portable, included a cameo character of Balthier from Final Fantasy XII. So we decided, since that'd be the version we're playing, why don't we actually go and play 12 so that when Balthier shows up in Final Fantasy Tactics, and then also Cloud shows up. We've played the games that those characters are from, and we understand who they are in the grand scheme of the Final Fantasy universe. So Final Fantasy Tactics is up after we get 12 beaten, which I hope we're getting close to. And then after Tactics, we got 13. We'll play 14 for a little bit. And then we wrap up this bad boy with Final Fantasy 15. Hopefully Final Fantasy 16 is not out by that time. Yeah, they're going to ask for feedback. Yep. Yep, exactly. Original story has one of the most impactful stories in the series. The problem is Tactics super slow. Yeah. Yeah, the thing that kind of sucks is I can't get Final Fantasy Tactics to run on an emulator because the way that I want it to. And the reason why is because on Final Fantasy Tactics on the PlayStation 1 and on the PlayStation Portable, they wanted to do this like slow-mo effect with spells and summonings in it. But to get it to go off, they couldn't find a easy. Bottom line, what it was is they didn't want to ask the animators to reanimate the spell animation in normal speed, and then when it's critting in slow speed. So what did they do? They just ran it, and I don't know if they did it with garbage data to slow down the game or if they added in more frames. But basically, what they do is they slow down the frame rate on the video game so that it gives it to you periodically. And because it's doing that, you get it in slow-mo. And on the PlayStation 1 and the PlayStation Portable, that's not a problem. But when you try to emulate it and the PC's forcing it to go a certain speed, and the game's like, all right, now slow down, and the PC's like, nah, I'm too strong for that shit, you end up with these really god-awful sound clips and stuff, and it just garbles it. So we're going to actually be playing Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions through a PlayStation TV, which is essentially a PlayStation Vita for the TV. So we'll be able to play it on original hardware and make it look as good as possible, and it will run great. But the problem is, if it was emulated, I could speed up the gameplay. And I could get us through the grinding parts a lot quicker, like I'm doing right now with Final Fantasy 12. But that won't be the case. So Final Fantasy Tactics is going to be a very long, very slow grind. It'll be rough. We'll be playing the rhythm game. I know, right? No rhythm game. No Dirge of Cerberus. The one that people were really upset about was me not playing any Crisis Core. They really wanted me to play Crisis Core. And I'm just like, Crisis Core is cool for like little story tidbits if you're like a Final Fantasy VII like nutcase. But bro, come on! Crisis Core had shit gameplay. Why are we pretending it was this like masterpiece? Except for the little bits of Zack, Cloud, and Sephiroth. What was that? Who's that Chris Angel? Wasn't his name Angel? Who was that piece of shit with the red coat and always quoted Final Fantasy's version of Shakespeare and ate apples? I think his name was Angel. No, Angel's your boss, your sensei. Zack's sensei, I think, was Angel. I don't know. His name was something stupid. Crisis Core was as good as it was also that bad. It was equal amounts good and bad. Man, ugh. Genesis, I'm thinking of... Well, Genesis is the... Is Genesis the guy or is Genesis the play? I think Genesis is the dude, right? The guy, yeah. I forget the name of the play that everybody's all obsessed with in Final Fantasy VII. It's like... You guys will say it and it'll be like, duh. Loveless! There it is. Loveless play. Yeah, Genesis always shows up and he just quotes Loveless all the time. Which is so funny, because, like, the power of quoting Shakespeare, like, in movies, you know, is because everybody knows Shakespeare. Everybody knows those lines. So when you're quoting one line, you know what's, for the most part, people know what scene that's from, and they know the stuff that's about to happen. Like, if you're speaking the lines that a man spoke in a Shakespeare play before he murders his father, and in the movie, it's a guy talking to his dad, and he's quoting those lines, like, oh shit, that means he's gonna kill his dad. Like, it's foreshadowing. But Genesis references a play that's fictional, that we've never seen, and we have no way to reference. So we don't know if he's just babbling and just saying random shit, or if he's quoting Loveless. I need to go this way? This looks like a way to go. What's that mean? I like how... I like how he tries to go through the mist, and he just calmly turns around and walks back, like... he's getting his gun. And they're like, what happened? And he goes, forest is haunted. What? Forest is haunted. Definitely not a Force ghost. Definitely not to be confused with Star Wars, guys. Stop it. No. Final Fantasy XII is not pretty much Star Wars. I won't hear it. Definitely not a Force ghost in a swampy forest like a place that you might call Dagobah. Not true. I won't hear it. Gross. Even grosser. So that, I mean, that's Ash's boy toy from the beginning of the game, but that is not, in fact, Vaughn's brother, right? Because Vaughn's brother and her to-be husband are two different people. That's the only thing I can think of, is if, like, it was supposed to be the same guy. That's the reason why Vaughn and Ash can see it. But they're not the same person, though. It's two different dudes. After all the shit that I've been fighting, this is cake. I am Sweepy. Ah! Man, this is why you guys don't remember this boss. It goes down like that. The best decision I ever made was giving her Defender. I love it. She's not that much weaker of a healer. She looks sick. Okay. Do not... Stop it! What are you doing, Bosch? He's like, I'm still a little confused. Fran! You son of a bitch. Now that onion's gone, just me and you. Is it really a Final Fantasy game if the main character can't see dead people? I mean, maybe? I like how the minimap is pretty much working, but like not though at the same time. Like, come on, man. You know who your target demographic was. We grow up jumping between Skinamax and another channel. We knew how we could see through the wiggly. We could decipher video static. We had Neo vision. But I like how, like, this mini-map that I can pull up still works. 7, 10, 12 right at the top of your head? Yeah. I think it's like a storytelling trope that got popular around that time. Is it weird that I'm actually excited for us to play 13? I'm excited for every game we play in this challenge, but I'm actually excited for 13 because I've tried playing it like 2 or 3 times, and I'm just like, God, I hate this. And then, of course, it got terrible reviews, and people feel ways about it. I'm actually kind of excited to get all the way through it and see how bad it truly is, right? Like, really, for real, like enough of the memes. Let's see how good or how bad it really is. I'm actually excited to find out. And then 15? Oh. Guys, 15's gonna be a blast. You don't think it's bad, but you don't think it should be called a Final Fantasy. That's fair. I feel that way about a lot of things. I feel that way about the Resident Evil movies. Like, they're fine, cheesy B sci-fi horror movies. Sci-fi comedy, almost, horror movies. Just don't call them Resident Evil. Just, like, don't call it Umbrella Corporation. Call it Parka Company. I don't know. And fucking... You know, don't call it the T-Virus. Call it the G-Virus. I don't know. Alright, we're all mad. I'm gonna stand here because when you're enraged, you're not allowed to play the game. Dumbrella Company. The B-Virus. I said the G-Virus, but I think there was a G-Virus in Resident Evil. Oh, as in B-movie. Hilarious. So I made salsa last night. We had to call the stream really early yesterday. Sorry about that, guys. But we went and did the stuff we had to do, and then we came home and I made salsa last night. And then was done making salsa. We made dinner. Sat down, was watching TV. Like hours later. And then I rubbed my eye, and it's like I pepper sprayed myself in the face. Jesus, it was hours later. I got fucking habanero in my eye, and I just start screaming. Toxic Lily's like, the fuck happened? I was like, I got salsa in my eye! Jesus! It's like, what's wrong with you? I want to do the rest of this map. I think I did all that there is to do, actually, now that I look at it. Just take a peek over here real quick. Story in 13 isn't bad. The level design, battle system. We'll have to see, because, I mean, I've picked it up and I've gotten like 4 hours into it every time I try to play it, and yeah, like, the game did play itself, and I'm like, just knowing Final Fantasy, I know that there's got to be more to it later. Like, they do something else that gives you something to do during combat, because I can't see any game studio, even Square, saying, yeah, it's a good idea to just have a game autoplay. So I figured that it did more than just played itself, which is part of why I'm excited to kind of see, like, you know, how does the gameplay actually flesh itself out later on. But yeah, the level design, I remember being super excited. I've told the story more than once, but I got into Final Fantasy like I've dabbled in Final Fantasy my whole life, like with the original on NES, and when 3 came out, which was 6 here in America, it's 3, but everywhere else it's 6. Well, specifically Japan, it's 6. Played around on that on the Super Nintendo a little bit, but like I didn't get deep into it until PlayStation 1 era. Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, that's when I really got heavy into Final Fantasy games, and so I was like, it was fresh to me then, right? And I was like, dude, 9's so cool, it's one of my favorite games of all time. And then I played 10, I was like, this is so good. And then I was so excited for the next game, right? And they announced 11's gonna be this MMO, and I'm like, oh, like that kind of sucks. And then so like I tried it, and I just didn't dig it. And so I was like, all right, well, whatever, you know, like World of Warcraft's my MMO, so I guess I'll just wait for 12 to come out. I just picked up a fucking bubble belt. God damn it, I did an entire hunt for a bubble belt. Fine, it's fine. So then 12 comes out, and I'm like, this is stupid. It's not even turn-based like 10 or 9 is, and all they did is they just offloaded the online Final Fantasy 11 and turned it into a single-player game. Like, this is stupid. Like, this is lazy. Blah, blah, blah. I was super mad. Wouldn't give Final Fantasy 12 a try. And I was like, I'll just wait for 13. And I was working at a GameStop when it came out. And so we get the guides early before we got the games, right? And so I pull out the guide for 13 because I'm like, yippee! Final Fantasy 13 is going to be so good. And I open the guide, and I was like, I'm not going to look at the back because it'll spoil things. I was like, I'll just check out the first couple, like, pages. And there's the first map. Straight line. I'm like, okay, well, you know, it's tutorial. The first couple maps are going to be a little bit light. Flip the page. Straight line. Straight line. Straight line. Straight line. Straight line. Straight line. Reverse straight line. I was like, what? The guide was enough to make me not buy Final Fantasy 13 when it came out. I just didn't buy it. I was like, no, I'm out. And then 14 was like not a great launch, and they did Realm Reborn and fixed it up, and I play 14 every now and again. And then 15 was really good. I really liked 15. I thought it was a lot of good decisions. There's not a Vagrant story, for example. That's fucking true. 13 was a disappointment to me, but I know people who played their first Final Fantasy enjoyed it. It was a beautiful game, no doubt. Yeah, 13's still pretty. All these years later, 13's still a very good-looking game. Yeah, I need to go back. I heard about all the DLC that they were releasing for 15. When 15 came out, my wife and I started playing it at launch. She would watch and I'd play it. And we didn't have any issues. I was really happy with it, but everything that people didn't like about it, they have fixed, at least from what I've heard. And then they added a bunch of crazy new stuff, and like, we were playing it slow because we had to find time when both of us could sit down to play it. And so we were trucking through it slow, and they started doing all these new add-ons and updates and stuff, and doing all this crazy cool shit. And then I started the Final Fantasy challenge, and I'm just kind of like, you know, I think I'm just gonna not beat this. I'm really close to the end. I'm incredibly close to the end. So I just stopped, and we pulled out on it, and I'll just come back to it. Oh fuck. We got a Lost Woods things going on here. Ain't good. Might have to refer to the guide to figure out how the hell to get through this. But yeah, I still need to beat it. I'm excited because I'll actually get to beat it for the challenge. And name of the pattern: voiceless words chime within your head. In this sanctum shall the pilgrim find truth and illusion, both illusion betokens the true way. What? am I supposed to... Supposed to be this way? Okay. Oh my god. What's up, homeboys? Let me guess, it's gonna be over here. This way. Alright. So I guess you gotta, like, step in the silly little places as you walk through. Sounds good, Mountain Dew. Have a good night, bud. Get your sleep on. Talking about changing your characters in this one, mid-battle? Yeah. Yeah, and if you're really good and quick about it, like, you can keep your mist attack, whatever it's called, going forever because of that. There's a lot of things I ended up learning to love about Final Fantasy XII now that we're doing it for the challenge. Like, I'm actually... It's one of my favorites, easily. I really like it. I think it's probably my top 5 Final Fantasies thus far. Oh, you was talking about 15. Oh, you can change your... You can change characters mid-battle. Oh, you can play somebody else other than Noctis now? Yeah, that's what excited me. I haven't played it since all those updates. So it's gonna be a real, like, a totally different experience when I go back and play it again. I found the door. Okay. Okay, no notification there. Nah, let me figure it out. So, it talked about Gigas for starters, which is Gigas in a previous game. Elias is what I was thinking of. I was gonna say Gigas was a summoning in a previous game, and I wonder if there's been any summoning that was mandatory. Alright, let me go back and read what it says a little bit slower. Yeah, so each of these say the same thing, I think. Yeah, these all say the same thing. So, let's reread this now. Fossil Gate bears a time-worn inscription. Gigas Summoner, Gate's power is yours to claim. Beyond the one gate lies sacred Guru Iru Vegan. Over the one gate, the Gigas holds the way. Gigas. Been a while since we've sorted this, so we might as well do that real quick. I'm thinking alright. It was a thought. They gave me the damn thing. At some point I'll use it, I think. Alright, let's read this again. The Gigas. Gigas. I'm gonna define the word Gigas. A giant, yeah. I'm telling you, the one who holds Giga, that was because the version of Titan in this game was Belias. Was the first dude we got, which I gave it Bosch. Right there. So he's the holder of the Gigas. He holds it. Do I need to summon it? Let's do it. What's up, bro? Now, he's here. Do you see him? Pretty dumb, but okay.
On the farther shores of the River of Time, shrouded deep in the roiling mist.
What is it, Fran?
The mist runs thick here.
Like on the Leviathan?
Do not worry. I will behave myself. The mist here is cooled. I sense something like the shadow here.
Fena. It appears Sid has yet to arrive. We'll lie in wait for him here.
So we're not going inside?
Not unless you want to end up twisted. Like the old man. Something there.
What is it?
She can see him. Let's follow her.
Dude. The soundtrack is so Star Wars. It's ridiculous. It is so Star Wars, it's ridiculous. Final Wars or Star Fantasy? Star Fantasy, for sure. That sounds so 80s. Is Monster Hunter World with DLC worth it? Does not matter the price. Yes. Yes. Absolutely, 100%. Why, how much is it? Like, it's still got some graphical, like, compatibility. I won't say bugs, because on some systems it works great, but some compatibility issues on PC. They might have to, like, mess with some settings to get it to run great. Aside from that, PS4 Pro, it runs great. PS4 Original, it is a little bit sluggish. But Monster Hunter World is... It's one of the... It made it into the second place when we did Game of the Decade. When Rebel and I sat down and we went over the last 10 years of video games when we crossed over into 2020. Witcher 3 took first place. Monster Hunter World was second. Maybe it was third behind Breath of the Wild. I think that was the case. There is a lot of online play with it, yeah. And we got a lot of people in the community who play it on both PC and on PS4. Yeah, it doesn't cross-play, though, between PS4 and PC, though, which kind of sucks. But if you can get into the gameplay, it's phenomenal. Have you played any of the Monster Hunters? Dude, if Monster Hunter World could figure out crossplay, I don't think I would stop playing it, to be completely honest with you, because I got a ton of friends on PC who I got it for PC as well. I'm not going to spend that much time again. I got 400 hours on the PlayStation 4. I'm not going to put another 400 in on the PC just to catch up. Ridiculous. Or just, like, save transfer. Just let my progress that I've done on the PS4 come over to the PC version. You have it for PS4, but it's slow, makes it difficult. Do you have it on the PS4 original? Yeah, because PS4 original, it runs a little chuggish. What's up with this dude? Yeah, no head. We gonna fight him? Daedalus is his name. Alright. Okay. Oh my god, man. Wait, did she just... Somebody just used a potion to heal. Or did she ether herself? Oh boy, he's trying. Sounds good, MP. If you got the original on PS4 Pro, I would just get the DLC. And it's really about where your friends are. If you got more friends, well, consistency too. Because, like, I had a ton of friends who were playing it on PS4. They don't play anymore. And then, like, my friends who have never stopped playing it are on PC. Yep, we get it. Okay. Interesting. Okay, so it dropped another one of these things. More games need a photo mode that I can do good. That I can do some good away screens. Speaking of which, yeah, these days it should just have crossplay, or at least cross save. Because, like, I get, you may not want to get into all the hubble-baloo of making the servers talk to each other and fighting with Sony and Xbox to make that happen, but cross save is super easy to do. It doesn't take a lot of server background to do that. So, all right, guys, we're gonna do a quick. Well, I was gonna sit here and blow all of our mana if I don't. I don't need to turn off everybody's game. It's just hers. All right, we're gonna do a quick break, guys. Get up, stretch, get something to drink, something to snack on, all that jazz. We'll be right back. Don't go nowhere.